Okay, so yeah, thank you so much for participating in the session and supporting us. The two artists here with me are professional full-time musicians and actually much more qualified than I am. And thanks to both Pawan sir and Dr. Srikanth for joining in this. I have been working on this for a long time. I've been wanting to give a full-fledged experience, a Carnatic concert, a mini concert experience. Actually, the concerts run into more than an hour and a half usually. But in the limited time, I wanted to give you a little bit of full-fledged experience, Carnatic music experience with a little bit of context, some anecdotes, something about the history and how we have been able to preserve the heritage over the last 200 to 250 years. As is typical with a Carnatic music concert, we will start with an invocation to Lord Ganesha. This is a song which is quite popular. Many of you will recognize this. The song name is Maha Ganapatim. We'll start with this composition and then move into the presentation. that was a composition. That was a composition by Muthuswami Dikshitar. We'll hear more about the composer in the coming in a few moments. So the topic for today is actually Indian Carnatic music on mandolin. Carnatic music, as most of us know, is actually the South Indian. It's another term for South Indian classical music. So the entire presentation today is about Carnatic music and some information about that. While mandolin is actually a Western instrument, it's actually an instrument from Italy. So you could say this is an East-West collaboration in itself. The topic itself is a sort of global, I'd say, a great synergy between East and West. All right. So to give you some intro about Carnatic, like I just mentioned, Hindustani is the other arm. South Indian is Indian Carnatic music, and the North Indian classical music is Hindustani. There are a lot of similarities as well as differences between the two. One of the differences I would probably like to call out is Carnatic music. Two differences rather. Like one is Carnatic music is entirely devotional, right? Every single song is on some god or goddess. So that is the case with Carnatic. While Hindustani is also got a lot of nature-based and other kind of themes. That is one of the differences. And also in Hindustani, we have time-based ragas like a morning raga, afternoon raga, evening raga, and things. In classical, we don't really, in Carnatic, we don't really subscribe so much to that. So these are a couple of differences I would like to call out. Yeah, but both are very similar in the sense both are raga-based, right? So we'll talk about raga in a bit. But both are based on Indian ragas, and we have like hundreds of them, and it's been used a lot even in films and all kinds of music. Probably you may not recognize the raga, but a lot of melodies, even in films, are all raga based, and that's what makes it very attractive. So I would say the fulcrum of our Carnatic music as well as Hindustani music is it's based on a very methodical sort of raga-based, melodic-based structure and a rhythm-based structure, which is one of the reasons it's been able to sustain so long. So Shuna, can we move to the next slide? Yeah, so 4 elements. I already spoke a little bit about ragas. So I'm not going to get into a thing. I think swaras, everybody must be familiar. We have sapta swaras, we call them, 7 notes. Sarigama Padani. So everything, all the music that we hear in the world is essentially a combination of these, right? So that's amazing to know that at the bottom of all this complex music, and we call a lot of musicians gifted and everything, at the base we have just these 7 swaras. All music in that we hear is essentially a combination of these. And Carnatic and Hindustani and any kind of music, in fact, is raga and tala based. Tala is basically the meter, the rhythm, which is like a sequence of beats. And it's not just a mirdangam, right? Tala is there in our body. Even our heart, loved up sound is actually rhythmic, right? The walk of an elephant has got a rhythm, right? So rhythm is not necessarily only a percussion instrument like a mirdangam or a ghatam. Rhythm is there everywhere around us, and that's what makes the music so special when the raga and the tala comes together. Next slide. All right, so to tell you something about the instrument, this instrument mandolin is a Western instrument. Essentially, it's an Italian. It has an Italian origin, and it has 4 pairs of strings originally. The one I'm playing is actually an adapted version for Carnatic, and my guru, mandolin U. Srinivas ji, he was the first to play Carnatic on mandolin, which is fundamentally a Western instrument, right? So he adapted this instrument for Carnatic music a little bit, and he made 4 pairs as 4 single strings, and he added a bass string. So the one I'm playing right now is a 5-string instrument, and then it sort of flourished. Mandolin has been there even prior to Srinivas ji, but he was the first one to play Carnatic on that, and the instrument pretty much flourished in Europe and Americas in the 19th and early 20th century, and Yeah, and violin is also very similar. It's an European instrument, but since late 19th century, it has occupied a very important place even in the Carnatic concerts. And you see a lot of violinists playing solo and accompanying other musicians. And Mirdangam is actually a very ancient instrument. We call three instruments ancient in our Indian system and Hindu mythology. Veena, which is our national instrument, and Venu, we call flute as Venu, and Mridangam. So these three are actually the ancient instruments, and we have a Mridangist today with us. So it's great that we are able to hear and we are still playing this instrument, which is very ancient. Yeah. Can we move to the next slide? Yeah, so the song I just played, Mahaganapatham, is by this composer. He lived between 1767 and 1847. And want to share a few anecdotes here. Can we go to the next slide? He's one of the trinity of composers whose compositions are actually being played almost 80% of the time. You go to any Carnatic concert anywhere in South India, you will hear songs from three people mostly. And one of those three is actually this composer. He's also a Veena player. And very interestingly, he's also a pilgrim. He was like a traveler musician, if I can call that. He's traveled to literally so many temples, and his music was fundamentally an expression of his devotion, right? So he was not actually performing in music halls. All the compositions that we are playing are like, he goes to a temple and he feels deep devotion towards that god. He researches about the temple and the history of the temple, and everything he sort of mixes in the composition. And he composed in Sanskrit. Fundamentally, all his compositions are Sanskrit, and it is so rich in scholarship. It's not just music, it's also about a lot of things about the place, the temple, where the place where the temple is located. How did the temple come about? Who's the main deity in that temple? Everything is so weaved beautifully into the song. And I think for Sanskrit scholars, he's a very adored and well sought after and researched sort of composer. And he experienced several miraculous events in his life. One being, after the 7 years he spent in Varanasi with his guru, who was a yogi. His guru actually asked him to descend 3 steps into Ganga, and he actually descended, and he found a veena. This is legend, and this veena is actually there in his life, in his generation. Like, there are his descendants who are living in South India. They have actually preserved that veena, and it is said that it was actually gifted by Ganga, the river goddess. And so he's composed, like, again, hundreds of songs, and one of which is what you heard, which is Mahaganapatham, a very popular composition played in concerts. All right, so on that note, I'm going to take a pause and play another composition. This one is by Tyagaraja, who's as popular or more popular than the previous composer I mentioned. So we'll listen to the composition, and then I'll give you a little bit more details about Tyagaraja.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I think brings back memories of stalwarts like M.S. Subbulakshmi and, Balamundi Krishna that we've, grown up listening to. So a couple of quick questions, Vijay, for you. What is the raga in which the first performance was based? Mahaganapatin.
Sure. Sorry, I should have mentioned that earlier. It was in Nata Raga, NATA.
Right. This is just plain Natya Ragam. Okay. And is the second composition in Raga Abheri, which is Bhim Plasi in Hindustani?
That's right. Probably I would have loved to give away prizes to people who guessed the raga. Who was the one who got the raga right?
Right. So one person, I have a name, another one is anonymous. So I guess we just go with that.
I would be happy to leave maybe even links to video, maybe post presentation. Would be happy to connect and share some film songs which are based on this raga. Yeah, this is Aberi. The second one is on Aberi. That's spot on.
Right.
And very,
there are requests coming from Tausif to play Evatan from movie Razi. So I think he mentioned that he's heard it in the past. So I'll let you continue with the performance. So a couple of questions I thought let's just kind of address. Let me share my screen again for you, Vijay.
Your screen hasn't come up yet.
Just give me a moment.
Yes, it's up. Thank you. Yeah, so that was thing. We can go to the Tyagaraja section. Yes, so he's the thing we have not. This is a picture that's very popular. Depiction of Tyagaraja. He also lived around the same time as Muthuswami Dikshidhar. He's composed more than 24,000 songs in his lifetime. Can you imagine that? And what we have today is actually only about 700. And very interestingly, again, even he has not earned a penny from any of his compositions. It was a way of life for him. He did his daily worship, and his favorite deity was Lord Rama. And most of his 80% of his compositions are in praise of Lord Rama. And today, all that you hear, most of it, like in fact, 70-80% of concert songs are his songs, which lends itself to so much improvisation. while he actually did not earn anything from that. So that is a great legacy we have in our Indian music, that it was completely divine music, and it was an offering to God. And he actually had, it was not that he was not popular. The King Sarfoji was the ruler at that time, and he had actually offered him a lot of gold and about 50 acres of land, which he declined. He said, I don't want to be a court musician. If I have to be a court musician, I'll have to sing in praise of the king. I'm not interested in praising the king. I want to sing God. So that is, that's the legacy we have. So in honor of his contribution, phenomenal contribution to music and his genius, we do, all the musicians get together in his home place, in the place where he lived and his entire life. And it is all the singers actually perform his compositions. There are 5 of them. Amongst the hundreds, he has a set of compositions called 5 Jewels, Pancharatnas. So they actually sing all the 5 of them. It usually falls in January, sometime in late January every year, and everybody gathers there. They just see it on, like, it's not like a great setup. It's just they see it on the sand, and everybody expresses their love and devotion to Tyagaraja, because he's given us so much in music. You could call it like it is no less than a Mozart or a Beethoven, or you name any musician in the world. So that's his legacy. And we have actually a crater on Mercury named after him. This is something that I discovered from this research for this presentation. So yeah, his music is indeed out of the world. He has a crater on Mercury. All right, next slide. Yeah, so moving over to 20th century. So this is my beloved guru, Srinivas Ji. He started playing as a 6-year-old, and he started touring internationally at 13. He was the first musician to play Carnatic on electric, as I've mentioned before. He's recorded over 100 albums. George Harrison used to listen to his one of his albums called Mandolin Ecstasy, and it was George Harrison's favorite. And he has toured with all the musicians, like almost all the famous musicians across all genres. He got his Padma Shri at 29 years of age, and he's very accomplished, very well decorated, celebrated musician. He lived only about for 45 years of age, but in that, I think he played for almost living the first 5 years apart. Pretty much 39 to 40 years he's played, and he was only doing that, nothing else. It was a very focused and very prodigious and musical life. Yeah, so all that I'm playing today, it is dedicated to his lotus feet. He's no more now, but I think he's all the players of mandolin, including Devashri Prasad, who was also a student of U. Srinivas Ji. Devashri Prasad learned, in fact, along with me around the same time, and he picked up all the nuances of classical, and he moved into film music, but he still owes all the music that he's composing today in film to Srinivas Ji, because that was his foundation. And all the mandolin players today, I'm sure owes it to him, because he's been a trailblazer and set the foundation for everybody else to follow. Yeah, so on that note, we will play an English note. This is called an English note. This was actually composed by another composer by name Harikesanallur Muthaiya Bhagavatar. And again, there is an interesting story to this. There was an Englishman who challenged, saying, can you, like, all the Carnatic music is great, but can you compose something similar to the English tune? And he actually did that. So we'll play that. You will have that feeling of like a band music, right? He said that to Indian sort of rhythm and raga, and named it English note. So we just call it English note, but this was composed by an Indian composer. So Shimla, how much time do we have? I hope we have time for this one and one more.
We are at 7:27. I think there could be people who might log out, but in case people are all right to continue, maybe we have another 5 to 7 minutes at the maximum.
Okay. So this one is a short one. So
sure, please.
All right. We actually had planned to play one more 3-minute piece. If there is no time, that's fine. We can wrap it up here. But yeah, if you have time, maybe we can play another one, which has a very historical significance. Do we have time? 3 more minutes?
I think there are people waiting to listen. Vijay, please continue.
All right, great. Thank you so much for your additional time. So this is the last one. Is a composition that was played at United Nations in 1966 by our Bharat Ratna, the first Indian musician to get a Bharat Ratna, MS Subbulakshmi. And for this occasion, there was actually a composition that was penned especially for this occasion because it was a UN concert. And it's the essence of that song. Again, that was a Sanskrit composition, but it's all about world harmony and peace. I think it couldn't come at a better time. We need all of us to work together. We've had a tough year. We've gotten back. So yeah, here is to more power, more peace, more harmony. The song is dedicated to every world citizen, everyone. Yeah, so this is a short piece. We'll end with this one. Thank you so much for participating and for the opportunity, especially. Thank you so much, guys. That brings us to the end of the concert. Thanks to Pawan sir and thank you all.
Thank you so much, Vijay. Before we kind of close, I think it's been an absolute cultural extravaganza that we've had today and the treat. And also at Tricalic, I think right now, last time we did see a different genre of dance and music, and getting to see Carnatic today brings a lot of memories back. So thank you so much for this, and thank you for your co-artists, all of them joining in with us today. Thank you very much and appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Vijay.
Thank you, Vijay. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks, Vijay.
Thank you, Vijay.
Thank you, Vijay. Thank you, dear.
Thank you, Vijay. Yet another amazing session. Thank you, Vijay.